That's 877-327-0365.
Tonight on Follow the Money, those new green light bulbs are killing jobs. The classic light bulb made in Cleveland, the newfangled twisty one made in China. Let there be light, but let there be jobs too. The angriest mayor in America. He loves unions, but can he explain why 3 SEIU locals got a waiver from pricey Obamacare? And in the corruption matrix, the local police chief who traded drugs for sex. Shame on the badge, Chiefy. Come on, let's follow the money.
Welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Eric Bowling. President Obama ended his address last night by saying, "We do big things." Really? Big things like what? Big things like increasing the national debt by $3.6 trillion in 2 years? Big things like an unemployment rate that's topped 9% for 20 months in a row, the longest stretch ever. And now this, the push for green energy, a new partnership with General Electric threatens jobs and takes away many of the things we've used our whole lives. Perfectly good things made here in America. What's more American than the light bulb? Look at this. Invented by an American icon, Thomas Edison, the classic light bulb made in Cleveland by General Electric. Cheap, reliable, made by hardworking Americans, but GE lobbied hard and spent millions to outlaw these bulbs to make these things. They cost twice as much, and guess what? They're made in China, not Cleveland. And now the head of GE is advising the president on jobs creation. Really? Sounds like he knows more about dissolving jobs. Under Immelt's watch, GE reduced its American workforce by 24,000 jobs, and just that last year alone closed 3 U.S. plants. Moved those jobs overseas. Sounds like GE's turning out the lights on job creation to me. Joining me now on my all-star panel, on the left, Columbia University professor, Mr. Mark Lamont Hill. On the right, Fox News radio host, John Gibson, and Bo Dietl of Bo Dietl Associates. Gibson, what about it?
This is outrageous.
Look at this.
And it isn't just Cleveland. It's Winchester, Virginia. What Jeff Immelt has done is made it law that these are illegal and that you have to buy these. The thing that's wrong with these is it's filled with mercury. You break one of these in your house, you got to call a hazmat team. I have never heard of environmentalists insisting you bring mercury into your house to endanger the lives of your children.
That's not your issue, John.
If
those things were filled with cotton candy, you still wouldn't approve of it. It has nothing to do with
Here, allow me to shed a little light on you. This bulb right here, about $2. Ed Dwayne Reed, I know I'm paying up. I didn't go to Home Depot or Lowe's. This bulb, which puts out, this one puts out the same amount of light, $4.99. Yes. $4.99. Now, GE's telling us we need to buy these and not these. Guess where they're made? China.
China. That's a problem. But they're two separate issues here. One is whether or not we need to be environmentally conscious. The other thing is, do we need to protect American jobs? Obviously, we need to protect American jobs. That doesn't mean
these are made in China, Mark. These are made in Cleveland.
I agree. So I'm saying we need to find out how to get these things made in the United States. But that doesn't mean that we throw away our environmental concerns.
So, Bo, should we go to, GE, Jeff Immelt is heading, let's call him Obama's job czar.
No, I would like to call him Obama something else, but I'm going to tell you something. If Jack Welch was back steering that ship, a good friend of mine, if he was steering that ship, what we would have done is we would have developed factories that make these bulbs instead of giving that business to China. That's what we're missing the boat here.
Guys, hold on. We're going to delve very much deeply into this. You won't be able to avoid the so-called green and clean energy. Here's how President Obama put it last night.
Tonight, I challenge you to join me in setting a new goal. By 2035, 80% of America's electricity will come from clean energy sources. Some folks want wind and solar. Others want nuclear, clean coal, and natural gas. To meet this goal, we will need them all. And I urge Democrats and Republicans to work together to make it happen.
So that means my good old reliable light bulb is doomed. Joining now is John Hofmeister, former head of Shell Oil, and Tom Borelli, Free Enterprise Project Director, who's calling on GE's Jeff Immelt to resign and has called Immelt a, quote, crony capitalists. What about it, Tom? What's so bad? I mean, it costs twice as much, sends jobs overseas. Should this guy be Mr. Obama's job czar?
Well, absolutely not. The big problem here, though, is that it's legislatively mandated. I should have the choice whether or not to buy that bulb, Uncle Fester's, or the GE bulb. It should be my choice, not have the boot of government tell us what to do.
Exactly.
This is against the free market, and that's why we're calling for Immelt to resign.
Why? Tie Immelt in here?
Well, Immelt is all for legislating our choices. I mean, the light bulb is one example. They want to, you heard President Obama last night, mandate renewable energy by, 2035. Those are laws. Cap and trade was a law. EPA raising energy prices is a law. Everything they're doing is restricting choice and consumer freedom.
And so, one second, Mark. And so GE will benefit by this new change in agenda, or I guess push into the green area agenda?
Absolutely, because you can have the federal government mandate the use of renewable products. Why do you have to compete when you have the government telling people what to do? This is command and control. It didn't work in the Soviet Union. It's not going to work
Hang
here.
in there, guys. I know they want to jump in. Let me get John Hofmeister in here. John, what happens to, let's call them fossil fuel jobs or oil jobs or current jobs if the green energy push creates, I don't know, let's say 1 million jobs? What happens in the other industries?
The president made a serious mistake last night when he said, why invest in what's been passed, meaning get rid of the subsidies for the oil companies, and let's invest that money in what's new. What he has to come to understand is that we use 20 million barrels a day of oil in this country. And we're going to use 20 million barrels a day as long as he's the president, whether it's 1 term or 2 terms. For him to say oil is in the past is just absolute palaver, and he is showing disdain for every consumer of gasoline and diesel products in this country, as well as petrochemicals and the food that we eat.
John, give us a sense.
Because everything has an oil price connected to it.
Give us a sense how many Americans are employed by the oil industry.
9.2 million people work in oil and gas. And I've been saying if we went back to 10 million barrels of production when we are at 7, we used to be at 10, we used 20, we could create 3 million more jobs. So to me, the president is not even credible when he's talking so-called green jobs, and he is ignoring 3 million American jobs that cannot be exported.
I feel strongly about that.
Let me go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree with one point, and that is that the president didn't do himself any favors last night by alienating the oil industry or by alienating people.
But Mark, please, you heard it from Hofmeister. If you create a green job, you might lose 1 or 2 or 3 non-green jobs or oil jobs or energy jobs.
No, and I think what the president has been saying fairly consistently is that sometimes you have to make short-term losses to have big-term gains. You have to have an investment strategy that allows us to expand and create
How's
jobs
that working out
long-term.
for you?
No, I mean, what else do you do? I mean,
Short-term losses, John. Short-term losses.
We've had short-term losses.
That sounds like a football coach.
I was wondering why Hofmeister didn't bring up the president saying we got to have solar shingles. Well, that's going to save us from the oil companies. Solar shingles.
I know I'm on the right.
We're going to be wasting taxpayer money for a decade.
I'm on the right side here. I know. I had lunch today with a guy from American Building Maintenance. Henrik Slipsaga. He runs American $5 billion company. They just bought a green company. They showed up to 35% where they can install different air conditioning units, these light bulbs, where they can save 35%. Honestly, I am for saving and using less energy with that. But give the jobs to the Americans, and let's start developing these bulbs.
That's
been
my point from the beginning, Eric, and that's the point we've been missing.
Hold on. But this whole green agenda, I want to bring it back to GE here. They're in the places where this green agenda is headed: wind energy, geothermal energy. If I'm not mistaken, solar panels. I could be wrong on that one, but a lot of the green infrastructure is GE based.
Oh, absolutely.
Should this guy be
No,
on both sides of this fence?
It's a conflict of interest. It's clear. I mean, both Obama and Immelt bet their fortunes, political and economic, on the green energy bandwagon. Obama's stimulus had $60 billion for green jobs and green clean energy. Where are the jobs? Immelt has done the same thing. They're doubling down. They're locking hands together.
Hofmeister, be fair and balanced here. What about the oil industry? What type of, I don't know, tax benefits, tax breaks is the oil industry getting?
You know, it's pennies on the dollar compared to what the subsidies that are going into solar and wind and biofuels. It's like 25 cents a megawatt hour for coal. It's $22 and change per megawatt hour for wind and $23 and change for solar. And those are federal subsidies. And those are 2007 numbers. So you know it's higher than that today. The subsidies, the taxpayers are paying for this green energy. The private investors are paying for fossil energy.
Good point.
And they'll be creating more jobs with private money than public money.
The subsidies that go into green are taxpayer subsidies. The ones that are going to
are private. No, I'm not disputing that point at all. But the point that I am disputing that you all are making is that somehow it's problematic to have this level of investment in renewable energy when long term that's the only way this nation will be safe economically.
Only when it costs us taxpayer money.
What was wrong with this? I mean, this bulb was perfectly good. Now we've been legislated. It's illegal to buy one of these. It's illegal to sell
John, are you telling me that bulb? Your point was about mercury. Are you telling me that that bulb were not filled with mercury? That you would still say that is environmentally sound?
Why don't I get to choose it?
Why did you tell me I can't buy it? That bulb was perfectly fine. It's not perfectly fine.
Mark, this is illegal in California.
I understand that.
100-watt bulb. It's now illegal.
I understand that it's illegal. But that's not the point John was making. John was saying that there's no advantage of that bulb over that one. That's simply unfactual. There's environmental advantage to that bulb.
In reality, with the mercury content of the other bulb, that is a toxic. If that breaks on your floor in your house, you have a toxic problem. If the other one,
then let's use American workers to create a better model.
Hey, John, Hofmeister.
I agree with you.
Hofmeister, I'm trying to figure out how Mark Lamont Hill is going to get an American worker when these things are made in China. It sounds like these jobs are going to China. We're shipping them from America overseas.
Well, what GE is doing in that case, they're playing to their investors. They make so much more margin on the fluorescent bulbs than they do on the incandescent bulbs, that why would they build the incandescent and make less margin when they can do so well on the fluorescent bulbs? And yes, it's even cheaper doing it in China.
All right. John, we're going to have to leave it there. John Hofmeister and Tom Borelli, appreciate your time, you guys. Besides the green energy comments during the State of the Union address, another topic